Hello from a galaxy far, far away. This is the beginning of a new series on geopolitics. I'll try to do this a couple of times every week to talk about various aspects of geopolitics and world events. In this first video, we'll talk about why geopolitics and what is geopolitics, meaning what does it take for you to be a good geopolitical analyst. So first of all, why geopolitics? Because it affects every aspect of our life, from the basic things such as prosperity and safety of your country to your GDP per capita, wages, what media you read, what food you eat, what medicine you have, and so on. So, is this very, very critical topic. And what is geopolitics? The word itself comes from a combination of geography and politics. So, geography played a huge role for tens of thousands of years in determining the destiny of societies and empires. So, for example, if a country has fertile soil, then it would be able to sustain a huge population. And if it had a good location, say, for example, good access to the oceans, then that would enable the country to trade. And then the latitude of the country matters. So, for example, if you look at all the ancient civilizations, from the Egyptian to Mesopotamian in what is now Iraq, to the Indian, the Greek, the Chinese empires, they all lie on a narrow band of latitude because it provided the optimal temperature, and that made a huge difference. Then, if you have mountains, mountains can provide the glaciers to support the rivers, and the mountains can also act as protection or a shield from the neighboring countries. And then, of course, when we talk about geography, we also talk about natural resources. So if you look at the coal, that was a huge driver of the Industrial Revolution. And then later, the discovery of the oil and natural gas have played huge roles in the prosperity of nations and also wars. And then you have strategic locations, right? So, for example, if you take a look at Turkey, Turkey is in a very, very strategic location where Europe and Asia they meet, and it's also very close to Africa. So that was one of the primary reasons for the growth and power of the Ottoman Empire. And then if you look at Russia, it's kind of a landlocked country. So it doesn't have much access to warm water all year around. So that's why Black Sea is very, very critical for Russia's survival and prosperity. And it's also the same reason why the US is tried to wage a proxy war against Russia using Ukraine, because the goal was to steal Crimea from Russia and then to install the US naval bases in Crimea. So and then if you also go back in history, you will find that about 175 years ago, the British and the French colluded to attack Russia in the Crimea, in Black Sea. So once we understand history and geography, then a lot of the times we can understand what is happening right now. But geopolitics has now evolved to become much, much more than just geography. It now involves the economy, meaning GDP. So, for example, China facing the possibility of becoming number one in nominal GDP scares the hell out of the US. And also, trade matters because historically, the largest trading nation also had the global reserve currency. So China has been the world's number one trade country for the last decade or so. So there's a very, very good possibility that the Chinese yuan is going to surpass the US. It may take like 10, 20 years, but it's a very, very real possibility. And then you have technology. So technology was the reason that the Europeans were able to colonize everyone. So when they came to what is now the Americas, the Native Americans didn't have any guns. They didn't have steel and all the modern weaponry. That's how a very, very small number of Europeans were able to conquer the whole world. So they had weapons, they had modern ships. And then, of course, what is next? Capitalism, right? So they were able to leverage uh, a stock market, bringing money together, getting money from others as the investors, and profits, the rise of the middle class. So the same philosophy applies now in terms of the countries that best manage their economy, that best manage their the currencies, and the one who best manage all sorts of things like the inflation, the investment, and so on. So, for example, if you look at Argentina, you can see how bad management of the economy and finance can lead to devastation. And this is also a very, very complex topic because there are so many things like what gives New York and London so much financial power, right? And then you go into the derivatives, petrodollar, setting the interest rates, the prices of the commodities. So that's a whole another deep topic. And then comes military. So this is obvious. This has always been the case since civilization started and men started to organize. So, for example, why was the US able to destroy Libya? Because Libya's military could not match the weapons and the planes of US and NATO. So that's why, for example, China has very, very powerful military. So they have the world's largest navy, and they have lots of missiles, and that includes the hypersonic missiles, and it's also the reason why U.S. and Europe haven't attacked Russia directly because Russia has nuclear weapons. So military matters in geopolitics, as it should. And then you also have propaganda. So the country that is able to control the narratives through media and social media is the big winner. And that is why the US has so much soft power, because they have a virtual monopoly over the global mainstream media and also the global social media. And it's also the reason why the US attacks China's TikTok so much, because that's the only global social media now that is not American. So you have to understand how propaganda works to understand global geopolitics. And then similarly, even social engineering. A lot of the things we think are just grassroots or natural movements or about human rights or this rights is all very, very carefully planned by the people at the apex of the pyramid, and they use social engineering. And then you have concepts like the climate change, and that's fake science used to control or slow down the developing nations, and then they have lots of other implications. So, what does it take for you or for anyone to understand what is happening in the world and to understand geopolitics? You need a 360-degree holistic view of numerous different topics. So you need to know about foreign policy, you need to know about geography, history, technology, economy, trade, finance, food, medicine, propaganda, social engineering, psychology, especially mass psychology. So all these things combined now make up geopolitics. So we will try to focus on narrow topics a couple of times a week, and we will look at some specific geopolitical events and trends and see how that fits into the bigger picture. And we'll try to go beyond the mainstream narrative, which never really tells you the real hidden story behind what is happening. So, and the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very, very interesting and also very, very scary, because we are transitioning from a unipolar world that's been dominated by the US for the last 30 years to a multipolar world where we'll have BRICS, Russia, China, India. They're all rising, and they are shifting the power balance in geopolitics. So there are going to be a lot of intriguing chessboard moves in this geopolitical board, and it'll be very fascinating and scary at the same time. Hope you like this, and let me know if you have any suggestions, and we will try to do this a couple of times a week. Thank you. Bye.